Hi, and welcome to our Decode session, The Next Wave, How AI is Changing the Digital Agency Model and Defining What's Next. My name's Kev Dooley. I'm a content strategist here at WP Engine, and I work on content in our agency marketing efforts. And a few months ago, we here at WP Engine teamed up with Nicholas Petroski at Promethean Research to build out a research report and conduct that research on how agencies are feeling about AI, how they're viewing it in the context of their business at large, how it's impacting them already, and what they're looking forward to as AI adoption continues to increase and as AI technology continues to evolve. So without further ado, I would love to bring on Nicholas Petroski from Promethean Research, who will be guiding us through those findings as well as some other research that he's done in the field. Nicholas, come on and say hello.
Thanks so much, Kev. I appreciate that intro. It was a fantastic time working with you and the whole team over at WP Engine. I'm really excited to get this research out in the world. There's a lot happening, and this stuff can make or break how an agency operates these days, which is kind of scary, but I'm glad we have it. So with that, let's jump right into it. 73% of agency professionals agree that optimizing websites for AI will be as pivotal for client success as the shift to mobile responsive design was. That is a huge portion of the industry that's expecting a lot from this tech. And today we're going to dig into the details of where the industry is at, what shops are doing, and the effects that AI is having on the industry as a whole. As Kev mentioned, I'm Nick, and I founded Promethean Research a little over a decade ago. Our mission is to make it easier to grow a profitable digital agency. We do this through extensive research into what makes agencies successful, and to date, that research has covered over 200,000 digital agencies worldwide. Then we use that research in our consulting work with digital agencies to help them design more effective growth strategies. Feel free to reach out on our site or through LinkedIn if you'd like to learn any more on that. Before we get into the actual details, I do want to take a peek behind the data that's in this report. The information in this presentation comes from a few key sources. First, WP Engine brought us in to do a broad-based study on how AI was impacting digital agencies, which was just published over on their site. This provided us with a fantastic level of detail on how agency leaders are adapting to this next wave. Then we pulled some data from our digital agency industry report to illustrate just how quickly the industry as a whole is adopting AI. We also grabbed the latest data from our State of Digital Services benchmarking report to show where agencies are actually using AI today. Combining these sources will hopefully help cut through the hype and give you a clear picture into the realities of how AI is changing the digital agency model. Since 2023, we've asked hundreds of agencies about where they are in their AI adoption journey. From a state of unsure to already implemented, we've mapped where each agency's at, and what we've seen is as an industry is a steady march towards adoption. ChatGPT launched back in late 2022, and our first checks were in early 2023. Back then, 39% of the industry was unsure about adopting the new tech, or they just didn't plan to. If you fast forward to today, that has almost completely flipped. A third of the market has already implemented AI, and another quarter is in the process of implementing it. Let's zoom into where shops are actually using AI today. Here, we measure AI implementation across each of the 8 disciplines commonly found within digital agencies. In our latest checks, we saw broad-based gains across the board. And even though copywriting was already pretty advanced, we even saw further gains there. Even with these continued gains, the vast majority of the industry is still developing a plan or is in the process right now of implementing AI. Something happened late last year, and Claude Code got good, like really good. And because of this, we saw a major step up in agencies implementing AI for coding. From the agency leader commentary, the majority of this happened late in the year and even into early 2026, as tools got so capable that they were impossible to ignore. Even with only about a quarter's worth of this, agencies now are as advanced in AI coding as they were in copywriting a year ago. Now that we've seen how agencies are implementing this tech across the industry, let's take a look at how the actual activities are panning out that they're spending time and money on. The first is obviously going to be tool investments. The vast majority of agencies leverage AI through applications built on the various models. Because of that, their top investments tend to be tooling or access costs associated with using these applications. They also are investing heavily in training for their teams. Keeping up with the pace of change is a common theme, and many shops want to ensure that they stay ahead or at the very least don't fall too far behind. We wanted to see if leaders in AI were approaching this differently than the laggards. So we asked respondents to tell us how skilled they thought their agency was when it came to using AI for web dev and design. And this ranged from beginners who were just now experimenting with basic AI tools, all the way up to experts who were training proprietary AI models for clients. 26% identified as experts or advanced users, while 15% identified as beginners. We used this segmentation throughout our research to understand how the leaders were approaching this tech shift versus the laggards, and we found some stark differences. One of those key differences was where they're investing in. Leaders were more than 3 times as likely to work on partnerships that would expand their agency's AI capabilities. This is especially critical in a market where the tech is changing so rapidly that it feels almost impossible to keep up with everything. Partnerships allow your agency to excel in one area without losing important capabilities in other areas. Other major differences between the two were seen in AI tool investments, the development of AI policies, and creating AI offerings for clients. Laggards were also the only group that weren't taking any of these actions. I think the laggards know they're behind, though, because the one spot where they were more likely to invest was training their existing team on AI. This is likely because leaders have already built a team that's up to date on AI, while the laggards need to catch up. This leader-laggard divide is already showing up in client results. Leaders were almost 3 times more likely to see benefits in user engagement metrics, and 4 times more likely to deliver operational efficiencies to clients. Results like these can easily become a flywheel that drives accelerating growth for the leading agencies. The laggards were also 2.5 times more likely to have seen no noticeable improvements than the leaders. And it's really easy to envision a scenario where there's significant shift away from the lagging agencies to the leading ones. And I can't imagine that the leaders are going to be very quiet about the results that they can achieve. So let's shift our focus to explore how agencies are prioritizing who they build sites for. Even as AI grows in relevance, agency teams are still designing websites primarily for human consumption, or at most an even split between humans and machines. Only a tiny fraction of respondents are prioritizing site builds for AI. Within that focus on human consumption, AI has caused many agencies to materially change their approach to web dev. Respondents cited 4 key ways that they're enhancing the human experience: smarter personalization, AI integrated content management, creating conversational and interactive interfaces, and faster user journeys so users can get what they need and move on. Again, leaders are driving all of this, but the laggards are also making significant adjustments as well. AI has also caused a rethink in how agencies approach optimizing sites for machines. When shops do optimize for machines, we're seeing it through adding content summaries and FAQ sections, using structured data, ensuring consistency of business information, revamping content permissions and credit, and upgrading tech infrastructure. And the AI leaders, once again, are in full control here. But there's obviously plenty of room to run for everyone in these optimization maps. As agencies embrace AI, their relationships with their clients are evolving. AI leaders are 4 times as likely to always initiate conversations with clients versus the laggards. And even when it's the client initiating the conversation, the leaders are fielding more conversations, indicating that when the agency, even when the agency isn't the one reaching out, they've positioned themselves so that clients are coming to them with AI inquiries. And the value that these agencies are able to deliver simply by being a trusted source that their clients can rely on in times of change is immense. This is all culminating in the leading agencies unlocking new AI-first service offerings for clients. These shifts in the value that agencies provide are also accompanied by pricing and packaging changes. Rather than viewing AI purely as a behind-the-scenes tool, many see it as an opportunity to create new value and revenue streams. Again, the leaders are way ahead in this category as well. But if you feel like keeping up with AI is a challenge, you're certainly not alone. 41% of respondents, including 47% of leaders, cited keeping up with the rapid pace of change as their biggest challenge. In an environment where new AI tools, frameworks, and best practices seem to emerge every month, agency professionals struggle to stay current. This is also why shops that have built a culture of learning and flexibility are doing better right now. Now let's look at how this is reshaping the agency industry. Here, we're looking at the average growth rates for shops in 2025 based on how their service mix evolved last year. When this market is shifting so dramatically, it's critical that agencies stay nimble. Sometimes this means offering additional services, while other times it means exiting underperforming areas. This goes hand in hand with how we see agencies grow. You can think of it like breathing. When an agency is tiny, it will take in a breath, expand, and offer more services. As they grow, they identify some services that sell better or maybe more profitable, and they exhale and cut the underperforming services. Then typically markets will shift, something will change, and growth in the core services slows. They then once again inhale and expand their services and find new growth avenues. This is what we're seeing play out in the data, and it reinforces why it's important for shops to adjust quickly to shifts in the marketplace. AI has been accelerating many of these shifts, while also introducing new ones. This is the main reason we're seeing nimble, proactive agencies win today. Agencies have faced significant pressure, pricing pressure specifically, over the last few years from AI. This chart shows how hourly rates are distributed among firms in our State of Digital Services survey in 2025 and what they shifted to in 2026. Most firms didn't shift pricing at all last year, but the small minority that did ended up growing faster than average once again. This new tech wave is unique in that it's forcing a dramatic rethink in the value that agencies are providing and how they charge for it. When you combine a challenging sales environment with pricing pressure, plus a market forcing service mix experiments, you're left with a worsening margin picture. This is the average net margin that digital agencies in our surveys have reported since 2015. It hasn't been as bad as expected, though. Some of that pressure has been offset by AI's own efficiencies. So while the long-run average net margin for an agency is about 15%, it only dropped to 13% last year. As long as AI doesn't completely crash pricing, there's some upside to this since the industry has room to run in implementing the tech. As they do, they should become more efficient and we should see the margin picture improve. What are those efficiencies exactly? Here we have a visual representation of how employees are distributed across 5 functional areas in the standard agency. The biggest section, production, accounts for almost 2/3 of an agency's workforce. Luckily for agencies, this is exactly where the bulk of the benefits are being seen. Remember in the AI implementation charts, we saw the highest maturity in copywriting and coding with decent progress in marketing and design. Those all improve production employee efficiency. We're seeing examples of this impact hiring right now as we're going through on essentially 2 years of negative employee growth for the industry. And it's been especially quiet for entry-level and junior-level hires. So there are a lot of forces at play, and very few, if any, agencies have figured it out completely. What we're seeing now are a ton of experiments as shops work through this changing environment. This makes it difficult to predict exactly what a future agency will look like, but we can summarize the main forces and explore how they might change how agencies operate in the near future. The first is specialization. Here's a chart of the percent of agencies in our surveys that identify as specialists. As you can see, most have specialized at this point, but there is a major difference between a shop that says they specialize in SEO and a shop that specializes in LLM visibility for local flower farms. I'm not sure that there is a market for the second one, but if there is, I bet local flower farms would choose them 9 times out of 10 over more generic options. What I'm getting at is there are degrees of specialization, and AI is driving the industry even further towards more niche agencies. The expertise that you create by working within a narrow band is going to be a major differentiator, especially if it's expertise that is difficult or unavailable to AI models. Agency structure is another area where AI is accelerating prior trends. While the general functional areas of leadership, rev gen, production, and support will still exist, they might not all be done by employees. Before AI, the industry was trending towards much heavier contractor usage. For example, agencies with fewer than 10 employees tend to have an equal number of contractors as full-time employees today. Now, with AI, agencies haven't been hiring for years, and they especially haven't been hiring that entry-level and junior-level talent. This will push demand for senior talent up. And it looks like it'll create a situation where the average agency is even smaller, staffed predominantly by senior level talent that is augmented by AI and subject matter expert contractors. Finally, it'll be important to make sure your agency is solving valuable problems. Previously, a large portion of the industry was delivering execution as value. Now clients are valuing execution less because they think AI can do it. It doesn't really matter if they're right. They'll still use that belief to push back on pricing. So agencies are shifting strategy. That's what they're selling now. Being right about what to do is even more important. AI is also opening up new service lines for agencies. This is the percent of agencies in our surveys offering AI dev and implementation services. And as you can see, it's grown every year since we started checking back in 2023. We also began tracking this on a quarterly basis in our Delphi group. If you have a chance, check it out on our website. We do quarterly agency pipeline surveys that specifically include data on which services are in demand versus which are falling off. And this lets agency leaders make near-ish real-time adjustments and grow substantially faster. This culminates in our outlook that the future agency will be smaller, staffed by experts who specialize in solving specialized problems at a strategic level, with execution only showing up when necessary. So that's our overview on how AI is changing the digital agency model and defining what's next. There are a ton of changes happening right now, and some are pretty significant. And there's definitely still room for agencies to add value in this next wave, but they will need to adapt. Luckily, that's exactly what many agencies are already good at. If you'd like to grab the reports from this presentation, the next wave is available on WP Engine site, and then the other two are available on our site over at PrometheanResearch.com.
Thank you so much, Nick, for sharing not just the data that we've been working on, but also the other data that you're seeing. There's so much to digest here. If an agency were to self-apply that term laggard to themselves, and maybe they haven't started adopting AI, or they're just in the very, very early stages, it's easy to see how overwhelming this can be already, just a couple years into this shift. Whether it's knowing they need to look at how they pitch themselves or their service offerings, or just the skills they have on their staff, it's probably getting to the point where they don't even know where to start. So based on what you're seeing in the data, if you were talking to one of those agencies today, what would you tell them is the first step? How do they try to climb back up that mountain now that they're this far behind?
It starts with what you're solving. At the end of the day, you have to do something valuable. You have to create something that somebody else can't, or doesn't have the time to, or doesn't have the resources to internally. So I talked about this a bit in the presentation, but understanding this industry was built on execution. It was really intelligent people and really creative people at larger companies that said, I could do this better if I wasn't held back by all the bureaucracy. I'm going to go set up my own shop and do that. When they did that, it was because they could do something cool or interesting or valuable really well on their own. Strategy didn't always play a part in that. It wasn't always should we have content on our website? It was, hey, I can make content. You want content? Great, let's do it. Now that question of should I is coming up across the board, because when you make execution really cheap or really easy to do, even if it's not deliverable execution, even if like AI doesn't do it 100%, if they do it 50%, you can still see how that floods the market with content or code or design or whatever the thing is. So the question really does become, what should we do? And being opinionated on that, being well versed in that, that's critical. So I wouldn't start out by just saying go learn Claude Code or go figure out like what the latest design tools are doing with AI. I would sit down and think about, okay, this is the problem that I want to solve. This is what I'm good at. This is what we as an agency are good at. How does that apply, and how does that track with the industries and the people that we are doing this for? From there, you could see where the actual value is. And then that lets you layer in the various AI tools to see, okay, we want to do these activities. AI can help here, here, and here. That here, here, and here is, I wouldn't say trivial to find out, but it's not hard. The value piece before that, what should you do and what activities should you be doing? That's the harder piece.
I mean, that makes total sense. In my work as a content strategist, I feel like a big chunk of my job has always been not typing on a keyboard, but if you tell me your marketing objectives, it's my job to find the content path, the story that will get you to those marketing objectives. And so that's, the strategy behind the content. And while I understand that the agency world is built a lot on execution, there's a lot of agency pitches that start with, we're just an extension of your team. I think there's always been that desire to have a more strategic role, at least on, the parts of the people doing execution. But it is definitely a shift now to where your primary value is, I'm the subject matter expert on this technology, on how to apply it, and actually selling that. So once you've found the value that your agency can bring, once you have kind of figured out that niche, that specialization, there's still the matter of this technology is constantly evolving, how it's used, how effective it is in different parts of what an agency would do. So the next step for an agency, once they've figured that out, is going to be, okay, what can I become a subject matter expert on in the context of the AI tooling that's now changing and shifting? But they're also looking at those margins that have shrunk over the past couple of years. So how should an agency go about staying agile and innovative as this technology changes without blowing up their margins or losing a lot of billable hours as their senior people are evaluating technology? What's a good path forward for those agencies?
That's a fantastic question. It's a fantastic question because it's really hard to answer. It was big in the industry a while ago to mimic Google's 20% time back when they had that. I might be dating myself now because I think that was like 20 years ago.
I'm with you.
but that was like, agencies were like, oh, sick. They can spend a day a week doing whatever they want. Let's do that too. That idea, maybe not to that extent, but that idea of building in time and sacrificing a little margin now to be able to experiment is humongous. And so you're not going to get away with this, bringing in a consultant and having them solve everything with what you should do with AI and get you up to speed, because I think McKinsey called it a jagged frontier. And it really is. The capabilities of AI are very jagged. There's some spots where it is fantastic and it will give you exactly what you need. And then there are other spots where it will make up data and cite things that don't exist and get simple math wrong. So there's pieces where you kind of have to find what that frontier looks like in your domain. And you can only do that through experimentation. That's also why having these senior people that are experimenting and spending their time doing that, spending some of their time doing that, also should be really close to the problem space. Like they should be really close to the customer, to the prospect, or to the industry that they are solving this problem for. That lets them tie that stuff together much more easily and effectively when they're not just seeing what Claude can do today.
Yeah, it makes total sense. As we kind of look towards the future, um, that agencies have a choice. They can look at this as an opportunity to evolve, to innovate, to find a way to stand out and become a leader. They can look at it with fear and uncertainty and doubt, and continue to fall further behind. What's the one takeaway you'd like agencies to go back to their teams with today, as far as what the future may or may not hold for AI? Because none of us really know at this point. But yeah, what's the takeaway for agencies today to give them a little bit of hope as they look towards the future?
Provide some reassurance. I don't think it's super necessary, because I genuinely believe that there's a lot of opportunity out there right now. I think that like I said it earlier, these are staffed and built by very smart people, very creative people. Their whole thing over the last 20 years of this industry, 30 years of this industry, has been reinventing themselves, finding value, finding something, some edge that they can create. It's really, AI is making certain things more difficult, but it opens up so many things as well, so many other aspects of what you can do and create for people. I'm not an AI zealot by any means. I have a lot of problems with the technology, but I think that there's massive opportunity for agencies, big, but more predominantly the small ones. The more nimble ones are in a better spot to readjust on the fly. You don't have to redo 300 pages of a website to change your service mix.
I love that. Yeah. So to our agencies out there, stay nimble, stay hopeful, and just look for ways to lean into your passions and your specialties and the things that got you into this work in the first place. Nick, thanks again so much for helping us create some of this data together in this report, but also bringing your other data along. Again, if y'all want to dive deeper into this, the Next Wave report is on WPEngine.com, and the other two are on Nicholas's website, PrometheanResearch.com. And yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's always great working with you.